The special meeting of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join me in reciting the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members present include myself, Chair Jacob Pride, Vice Chair Robert Levenheim, Supervisor Michael Albert, Township Manager Julia Heilica, Conservation and Recreation Director Dr. Alex Jackson, our Engineer Melissa Hutchison, Committee Member Supervisor Mike Dwyer from Middle Smithfield, and Parks and Recreation Manager Chris Rain, also from Middle Smithfield. So this meeting serves to meet the public meeting requirement number 1 per the grant guidelines. And just as a brief explainer, this is the first time that the majority of the Board of Supervisors in Smithfield has heard this. So this is our first time to provide input. So the format I'm going to follow is I'm going to allow Missy to present what she needs to present. We'll have board interaction, and then we will have public comment at that point. This will just keep it clean, so we can go from there. Feasibly, if you need anything on the computer, the screen can still work for us. So we'll go from there.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So this meeting is essentially to give the Board of Supervisors and the public an overview of the scope of work for the River's Edge Bike Park Master Plan. And the scope of work is dictated by the DCNR through the grant process. This is the third of a total of 5 meetings. We had 2 study committee meetings. This is the first public meeting. There will be a second public meeting, and then there will be a third study committee meeting. That will be the final meeting, or it should be the final meeting. Also during this process related to public participation, there are key person interviews that have to be completed. There is a citizen survey that is currently live for the public to participate in. Other items that need to be addressed during for the scope of work during this process is a cost estimate, maintenance and operation cost, security analysis, submission to the PA State Historic Preservation for environmental review, a forest stewardship plan, yes, and a forest stewardship plan, I'm sorry. Some of these items have been completed. A bulk of the key interviews have been completed. The county forester, Alex, and I met with him in the beginning of November. And like I said, the citizen survey is live, so that's ongoing. So that is the overview of the project process. This meeting, like I said, is just to give an overview. The next public meeting, there will be 2 to 3 concept plans presented. We will have an analysis of the key person interviews and of the citizen survey to also discuss.
Today?
No, next meeting.
Do I understand there's a concept, the first concept being introduced today?
There is no concept plan introduced today. That was a discussion item, but we fell back because the public meeting and the DCNR scope of work specifically states just an overview.
Okay. Are you going over any results of the key interviews or no?
No, I mean, we can. I can give you a brief summary of, who we talked to, what their opinions are, things like that. But.
And can you, all I know is that there's been meetings attended, which I haven't been able to attend because we can only have one supervisor going.
Yeah.
I know there's been a number of different discussions, some concerns from neighbors especially. So I'm just curious what the general, I guess if you haven't done a full analysis of the interviews, we don't really know the full results. And usually you have to do all of them before you know. And do we know, I guess first, how many surveys have been completed?
As of November 26th, 90 surveys.
No, so not
a
anywhere
lot.
close to getting statistical relevance. Yeah. But there's narratives in there, so that can still be informative.
Absolutely.
Without being
It's
statistically
still open
relevant.
until January, right?
The first or second week of January.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Okay.
To back up, I can tell you that, we had 17 interviewees listed. I've done 9 of those 17.
Okay.
There were 2 no responses, and I'm waiting on phone calls back from some others.
Okay. Are we allowed to know who the 9 that you've
Yeah,
done?
we discussed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, right? I
Yeah,
don't see why not.
Yeah.
So I've done, I've interviewed Sue from the Pocono Area Cycling Trails, Jennifer Shikadis from Pocono Heritage Land Trust, Price's Landing Residents, State Representative Tara Probst, the Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living, Kettle Creek Environmental Center, the Pocono Pony, specifically the River Runner, and Dr. Gingrich from Ohio University, related to the Lenape Dixon.
Okay.
Awesome. Oh, definitely want to get to the other 17, or the other 8 you said? For the total
Yeah, there's a
17?
total of 17, yes. Like I said, there were 2 no responses. I mean, I'll try again. I've tried 3 times. but
Sure.
I'll
Only do
reach
so
out
much.
one more time
Yeah.
just to see, but, only 2 out of 17, I think,
So I guess before we,
a good outcome.
oh yeah, before we give,
Well, hold on the list.
Yes, I can tell you.
Sir, can I have your name?
Michael Reed,
And those,
I know Pocono Disc Golf was on the list and
Yes,
I was not contacted.
right, and I was hoping you'd be here tonight, so I can schedule a time to interview.
Okay.
Yes,
sir, how do you spell your last name?
REED.
Great, thank you.
yep. Who else was on the list? So the local scout troop, Laura Spinner, I contacted with no response. Chamberlain Canoes, I'm waiting on a response. The Pocono Visitors Bureau, I'm waiting on a response. The Constable, I left a voicemail. Shawnee Fire Company, I left a voicemail. 1, 2, that's how many are, okay. Yes, and Dr. Gingrich replaced other persons that we discussed for the Lenape history, so
okay,
it might be 16. I may have counted
all right.
incorrectly. But
Well, I guess the key thing before we give any input from Smithfield is the existing conditions and site analysis and observations that you've done,
yes,
feel like that-
so,
helpful for at least Michael and I who,
yeah, and I have, 11 by 17s or full size prints if you want to look at those, while we're discussing it.
Can I ask a question, I'm sorry, regarding the 2% reviews? Is there a reason I heard Jennifer Shakaitis as their host names? I understand that they're Democrat representatives in the area. Is there a reason they were specifically reached out to?
political party is no, I mean, you can answer, the political party has no bearing on this project. I mean,
Now, and
Tara's one of our sitting legislators, and Jen Shakaitis' group that she worked for Pocono Heritage Land Trust does a lot for conservation, so they're like a regional partner.
And is there a reason that instead of a local resource for the Lemke's that you guys went with somebody from Ohio?
Dr. Gingrich did a vast research of the site. He's analyzing the information that was obtained from that dig. So he's very knowledgeable in the history.
Okay, the dig that was specifically done at the bike park?
Yes.
Analyzing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he collaborates with the Smithsonian Institute, and he's the leading expert on this particular site at this time. In addition, he's actively doing research. He's publishing papers and so on and so forth.
Okay. I was just curious because I know there are local resources here. I wasn't sure whether we went out of state for somebody, but I appreciate the clarification.
No, sorry.
I have one question. Please.
Go ahead.
Missy mentioned that she reached out to Chamberlain Canoes, but I thought that this is supposed to be not a commercial launch if it happens. It's supposed to be someone with their private kayak or canoe,
Yep,
but yet you reached out to a commercial company.
not to use their services. I want to ask them how many people they think would be interested in something like this in the area. They're from the area. They know who comes, they know who goes, they know how many people they have during a certain amount of time. So it's just for numbers and evaluation, you know, and that would be good for parking. That would be good to know, you know, how many people might visit here in addition to who's visiting now.
I think it's a good point. Maybe we should also reach out to the National Park Service, the headquarters here, just to see if there's any estimate of how many people launch private canoes and kayaks from Smithfield Beach or from Bushkill every year.
Yeah, I can do that. I also, I reached out to, the Pocono Runner, or Pocono Pony, the river, they run a bus for the river runner, and he gave me some good numbers, regarding how many people they have per weekend. I don't have that information in front of me, but it was very informative.
Another source might be the River Sojourner people.
Okay.
That is a great suggestion.
Just for clarity's sake, if we want to contact our state senator's office too, unless you already have.
Good question there.
I
Okay,
have one question.
Go ahead.
So, you said Chamberlain, canoes that you guys reached out, there's two other sources too that you can reach out, Adventures and the one in the water gap, Edge of the Woods. So you should include them too, their feedbacks also, having people do come.
sure, that's fine.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Which one?
But I think the point that was raised about their commercial operators is interesting because we should go, as I said, to people that aren't commercial operators that represent amateur kayakers in the area. And that would be, you know, the people that launch at the park, the people on the Sojourn and things like that.
Well, maybe there should be a survey on the township's page saying how many people in the residence does kayak or
The
canoe.
survey is not specific to that use, but the survey that exists for the whole plan is comprehensive.
And I believe the non-motorized launch is one of the options for, would you like to see this?
Right.
So I think-
Choice option.
Yeah, I think that would give a good indication how many people may use it.
Just real quick, have you reached out to Senator Brown's office?
I have not,
Okay,
but I can.
cool.
Okay, so moving on to the existing features plan. This plan was compiled from a number of items. We had a boundary survey that was completed by Frank J. Smith. The FEMA flood map is incorporated into this. The existing contours are from the LiDAR contours, so it's GIS based. So a full contour survey was not completed, but it gives you a good idea of what's happening.
Can I just ask a quick question? Because I read the past minutes and I guess there was some discussion around the map. Someone brought a more updated map, so 2023 versus 2013. And so what am I looking at
So
here?
this is the 2013 map, and we did reach out to FEMA again. And they indicated that there is no revision or amendment to the map that you see in front of you. You can see on the existing features plan, there is you can see the disc golf course, the existing bike park. The Price's Landing residence are to the right. You know, and your existing road and things like that. Woodlands. I have more.
Oh, that'd be great.
I have plenty.
Awesome.
I don't know if there's any questions about the existing features plan.
I mean,
I've memorized it,
Happy to-
yes.
probably spent enough time to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you're familiar with the site,
Yeah.
it's accurate, you know, it's what's out there, and it's a good base to, lay out some concepts based on our conversations.
Right. Do we have any questions on what exists now?
We can move on then.
I was gonna say, if any of y'all,
Yeah, it's pretty,
yeah,
it's there, is there, yes. Okay, and then, the last item is park development idea discussion. So I think this is where both of our conversation will be.
Right.
I can go through some ideas that were presented in the past. at
That would
previous
be
meetings.
great for.
Just
at least
to
Michael
start?
and I.
Yep, so we are working on correcting the existing pump track. We do have revised plans into the county conservation district, and we should hear back from them soon.
Are you talking, I didn't hear in the interviews, were any of the interviews any groups that are using the pump track?
Yeah, with Sue, how do you pronounce her? Melchior, yeah, she is Pocono area
Oh, that's a bike, that was a bike.
Yeah.
track.
cycling
PAC.
trails, yeah,
Okay,
path,
Okay,
yep.
all
And
right.
then Mike here is from.
Yeah, so
I know,
she's-
I know he was, yeah, it's cool.
Missy, did you also reach out to Port Jervis?
I did, yes, that's the other one, yes, I did reach out to Port Jervis, I spoke to Michael Ward,
Oh.
who is, the president of the state, their outdoor club, I think, something like that, yeah, so that was a great conversation. Yeah, so, park development ideas, so we are in the process of correcting the existing pump track, like I
Right.
said, we have a revised plan into the county conservation district, and we should hear back from them soon. Expanding the existing pump track with beginner and advanced tracks. A jump line was also mentioned.
These are suggestions, this is not part of the road.
These are suggestions.
Okay.
We have no concept plan.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if you were saying that expansion was part of the planned. I know there's like stormwater.
This is just the drainage.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Remediation.
Yeah.
okay.
A loop trail, which would be ADA accessible. Expanding and improving existing natural trails. Including informative kiosks throughout the park along the natural trails, specific to the Lenape Dig site and its history, the non-motorized boat launch, picnic areas with gazebos, restroom facilities, an open-air theater, bird watching, and I'm also adding improvements to the parking lot, which I think is apparent, but that would be a big item.
For sure. I mean, I think on that, I'd like to see potentially some fencing so we can actually gate it. Like, I know we can gate the vehicular entrance, but that's not gonna, stop some people.
Mhm.
And that'll hopefully help, keep things at bay, during the peak season.
Okay.
Are we providing input? now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, I mean, my big question is, I don't know how much the bike pump park gets used. Is anyone here that uses the bike? You use the bike park? Okay. I mean, I'm not saying I want to take it away from you, but are there many people that are using it? I don't think I've ever seen anyone, I mean, I know years ago, it was used and grew over and wasn't very.
Until it eroded away.
Eroded away. I just don't know if there's, yeah.
That sounds correctly.
Yeah.
Back when it opened up, it was crowded, lots of people were using it, I was using it a lot, but throughout the years, there wasn't maintenance done on it.
Yeah,
Which of course, overgrown weeds, PAC tried to revive it, but it didn't work, cause you need lots of volunteers, like.
right.
Probably like every single day for at least a month straight, to at least get that track back into shape.
Are you going anywhere else?
Yeah, I do go biking anywhere to other places.
I'm curious, like, is there another outlet
Mhm.
for,
There's a Port Jervis, well, yeah,
Yeah,
Port Jervis has a
so
pump
far.
track.
yeah?
That has that's paved, it's asphalt.
Uh-huh.
And then another track is over in Vernon, New Jersey, and another one is down in Pikertown, PA.
Okay,
Is there one around Lehighton too or not?
There's one in Jim Thorpe that opened up about a year ago as well. I haven't been to that one
I
yet.
know a lot of people, more from,
Sir, can I have your name, please?
At the Osgood.
a lot of people, also go to Glen Park, but that's more mountain biking.
that's
than-
a
yeah.
mountain biking group, yeah.
And, just to jump in here, from what I understand, is a lot of people use the pump track to practice for Glen Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's turns and hills.
Yeah,
and
that makes
jumps and
sense.
Things like that, so a lot of people would probably use the pump track for
Yeah.
practice.
You haven't heard any of your, that was my first question. I mean, I didn't hear playground. That was never been brought up.
I think Alex and I may have discussed that ourselves, but I don't think it was brought up during a study committee.
I mean, I know I've talked to residents that have small kids and
Yeah.
said, there really isn't great places to just take the kids. Obviously, there's one at Minnesink, but it's one of the problems being when there's a soccer game or football practice,
Yeah,
you
then
cannot get
there's
in
no
there.
way you're gonna be there.
There's no way you can get in there.
It's also for bigger kids, it's like older kids.
Yeah, I mean, one of the, you know,
So maybe.
I think of a part, I mean, I know, and there's some here at Water. There's some
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, this one's
It's a
newer.
little bit, and a little younger kids
Yeah,
too, as
yeah.
well. I don't know, it just seems like one of those things that it's not hard to do. It's
No,
not
I
some
think
swing
that-
sets and
I think that would be
not
great.
particularly expensive. And I guess, so then that's another question. So like, when you're coming up with concepts, you mentioned you're also putting out a, what did you say, cost estimates for maintenance?
Mhm.
So I assume then, because it'd be good to know if we want to repair the pump track,
Right.
what are the costs
Yeah.
associated with maintaining it? Because I, for one, am not a fan of building anything if we're not gonna have the resources to keep it up.
Understood.
I
Yeah,
think-
and the cost is part of our master plan. So, and that includes operation and maintenance costs.
Okay,
Isn't the key thing with, I think when this was originally constructed, the surface could have been paved, but that wasn't the choice at the time, but now we've seen with more erosion, it might make more sense with the improved track to actually resurface it with asphalt. right?
Yes, and the revision at the conservation district now
Yeah,
proposes a paved circuit.
so does that make it easier to maintain in the long run? I mean, it obviously withstands erosion a bit better than.
Yes, yes, I think so.
I mean, I'll be, so, I mean, I wanna know, I mean, we're doing all these things, getting input, doing surveys, interviews, because we wanna know what the community wants, right? And that's what we wanna put in. I mean, I'm just gonna provide my 2 cents for what,
Yeah.
I mean, I have 3 kids, they're now, well, 14, 13, and 10. So maybe a little bit too old for some of the things I'm talking about, but great for pump track and disc golf. My youngest is gonna get into disc golf. What I sort of imagine in a park, if you were just asking me, it was exclusively up to me, I would probably want a loop trail that, you can walk or maybe do a little cycle for a small child that might be on a small little,
That's what's on the outside. That was always planned on the outside. If you
Right.
Look at that loop there.
the outside loop. I mean, I'm an avid hiker, loops, runner, love a loop. Out and backs are never as fun. If you can make a loop, it's better. I love the idea of open space, grass, if possible. I mean, I would normally say soccer fields, and that sort of thing, but we have those right across, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Playground, I like the idea of picnic tables. Being able to do something where people can go out, but not necessarily, I don't know how much I feel about barbecues, just because
I don't
it's a
think,
risk.
I don't think in that site it would be great because it's near so much brush, like we're gonna have much less trouble with that at Waterfront where we do have that.
Right,
But I do think the picnicking makes it a little bit more family oriented, so.
as
you
opposed to
have-
running a barbecue, and we also know the challenges that we have in the summertime, where it gets overrun, and so, we always have to think about that as we move
Yeah.
forward, but, I mean, that's my 2 cents. I like the idea of space, a place for people to go, run around, maybe play, frisbee on the side. It's just some unstructured play, is what I'm
Yes.
basically
Okay.
looking at, as opposed to structured play. And my other feeling on that is I do feel like a lot of structured play is an area where companies, can take the lead and know how to run a business to do those things. Although I'm aware, I've been told multiple times, disc golf is fairly rarely, if ever, run by for-profits and
Right.
is typically sort of municipal. But anyway, just being transparent, I would never have put, me personally, a pump track or a disc golf in place. But they're there now, and if there is use and the community wants them,
Michael, have you ever been up to the Port Jurors one?
I'm not.
take a look at it.
I tell you what I have been, I know I'm gonna get, no one who's gonna want this and they're gonna hate it, but, I go to, I'll say it anyway, I'm just saying what I think is fun and interesting. I go to northern Michigan every year for summer and there's an incredible, skate park, very small, concrete, designed by an incredible architect. And you see kids doing skateboarding events and stuff like that, and they're not hooligans, they're not doing bad things, they're having a good time. It's concrete, it's got good drainage. I love that. That is a little bit, it's in the, like a, I wouldn't say it's a city, but it's in a village. It might not make as much sense here.
Could elsewhere, but probably not.
It could elsewhere, but not there. I'm just throwing it out there that, so in that sense, the idea of a paved bike track that, I don't know, you've been to paved bike tracks, is that the sort of direction that kids are going? That could be cool. I'd be more inclined to do that if it means it'll last 20 years as opposed to require maintenance every year. And as we all know, it's easier to get funding to do it once and really hard to get an annual budget to maintain it every year.
Well, the reason I mentioned Port Jervis is because you'll see up there, a series of pieces in the track for different age groups, you know, little ripples, bigger ones, larger ones, being able to go around several and connect them, you know, it gives you a sense of what kids do and what they do at different age levels. And, that's all paved, and I think for a municipal one, there's just no way to go except paving. Well, Mike and I tried it the other way. We were sold a bill of goods
Right.
that it had to be sort of clay, like the tennis
Yeah.
courts.
Oh my
And that
gosh.
was great for them.
They work every single day. You have to, as an example, like clay tennis court requires maintenance every
Right.
single day.
Right. It's not for a municipality to have that.
No,
kind
it's
of-
crazy. That's how, yeah. I mean, I think the last thing my last points, as we're doing the costing, it'd be great to be able to parse out parts of it.
I like phasing.
Oh, yeah.
And whether I would call it like an ordered phase, but like knowing, well, if we wanna pave and do a pump track right here, this is the dollar amount, because it might be we're looking at grants and that's just never gonna be possible because it's too much money, but putting in a trail that walks around with a couple picnic tables is, or maybe the right type of grant comes out for that. So being able to separate those out into
Segmented.
segmented.
Yeah.
And I honestly wouldn't call it phases, because I wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. I would think of it as, this is this chunk that would cost this
Well,
much.
I guess when I'm thinking of like the stages in this way, like I like the orderly sense because, you know, if you're going to be moving earth in one spot, you might as well be able to try to get it done everywhere you need to, you know.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing a loop trail, it's gonna be completely different crew, different stuff than
Yes,
if you're paving a pump track.
right, but what I'm saying is correct. But I think that, you know, you wanna make sure that you're doing things that they all fit together in the end.
Of
And that
course.
way you don't have massive.
Well, that's why it's a master
unplanned
plan.
open, yeah.
Yeah, it's a master plan, but maybe the stages can just not be numbered, they can be lettered or something.
That'll make you feel better.
Yeah, maybe feel better.
1A1.
No, just A's. I don't want, it's a little silly, but.
We can structure our cost estimate for each amenity.
How many rounds can you go in a row on C2P2? With DCNR,
Ooh, I don't know.
like, is
I
it,
don't know off the top of my
cause I
head.
mean, I know those are, Mount Pocono just got like $450,000.
I don't see why you couldn't just keep applying. I mean.
Yeah, can you go, I guess what I'm saying is, can you go 2 rounds and then hope you get LSA somewhere in between, that way that is the bulk of your.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Jen,
if I may, I mean, I think that was the plan from day one, is to get all these ideas, you know, put it on paper, price it out, and then prioritize
Yeah.
what we can do, you know, with these grant dollars. Maybe in 2026, we go for another grant for the swing set, the next, you know,
Right,
at least it's on paper, it's part of the master plan.
And it's easy to put the grants together, because you've got it all together. and it's
Correct.
right.
And
Sell
everything is
that one.
cohesive, rather than, you know, somebody coming up with an idea 2 years from now, well, you know, let's put a baseball field in here. Next to the swings between that and
yeah,
the bike park, so,
Yeah,
mhm.
I
right,
mean, the whole idea is to put it on paper, cost it out. And then prioritize what we can do and what we wanna do,
yeah,
because, I mean, we all know sitting here, these are all great ideas, but
Yeah.
not everything's gonna get done next year by any.
Right.
Oh, or maybe
Right.
ever, honestly.
I
Correct.
guess what I'm asking, Julia, like when we did the
So-
various funding rounds for Marshall's Falls, for example, there's a couple that are between DCD and DCNR.
Yeah, and I'd actually rather shift this and compare it to what we did at Waterfront.
Okay.
It's a better example, I think, because
Alright.
Marshall's Falls is very complicated because the price went up and we
Sure,
had
yeah.
grants. But what we did over here in Waterfront is with stage one, we said, hey, we're gonna build a fishing pier. We got an LSA grant for that. And then we used that phase one to match funding for phase two,
Right.
which was the gazebo. We got the gazebo through DCNR grant, and that allowed us to get that 50-50 match. So when it was all said and done, the township contributed maybe $12,000 and
Right.
it's getting,
Okay.
72 for phase one.
That's what
and 90 for the
But,
other.
by the way, none of that phase, I'm sorry, this is slightly off topic, but none of those phases involve repairing the main building.
No,
Okay.
no.
So would that have to be a brand new master plan? Or could that just be,
That can be a facilities grant. It's
Okay.
totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it can get very complicated. We are pursuing and looking at other building grants. One of the things that you had mentioned actually yesterday was that people love to see cool and interesting new projects. So depending on how we want to spin that, is it a community area? Is it an emergency shelter when things go sideways? The possibilities are endless and we are still in the process of researching what grants we can pursue.
Yeah, that's
to
how
get
you
that
decide.
updated.
that's how you stand
This gentleman in the back, you've had your hand before.
I was just gonna make a quote on the bike park. Like this young gentleman said, when it was first opened.
Yeah.
It was used heavily, and now, if I remember right, they had either a competition or somebody come in and did show to people. What
Oh,
it's
yeah.
about and stuff.
Sure.
Since then, it's all downhill.
Yeah,
I see more people running electric cars on that track, their trucks, than I do the bicycles,
right,
and I live right there.
yeah,
Sir, may I-
I see more people playing frisbee golf than anything too,
yeah,
Sure.
which those guys love, so.
yeah.
But
I've
the
never
bike
seen
park
anyone,
itself,
I mean,
spend that kind of money, I think it's just ridiculous.
yeah,
Right now, it's so overgrown. With brush and stuff right next to the lanes that you drive on. That's not great for the little kids.
Yeah.
I mean, there's where you get into your maintenance part of it. Who's gonna take care of it? Well, if you ain't gonna take care of it, it
agreed.
ain't gonna work. And if you pave it, it's gonna cost you 10 times a lot more money. And it's still not gonna work. Because that road is gonna come, road can go right through the blacktop if you don't do it right. And to pave that, that's gonna be a process because of all the mobiles, you can't just go in there with a paver and a roller and roll it and expect it to stay
You
there.
know,
It's gonna break up because we live in luckily, we don't have the winters we've had, but when frost gets into it, you're gonna kiss goodbye.
Sir, may I have your name, please?
Tim Freeman,
Thank you.
if it ain't thick enough and done properly, you're not gonna maintain that. It's gonna just go right to, it's gonna break right up.
yeah,
Alright, first I'm gonna elaborate on that. To redo that, bike track, if you're gonna blacktop it, you're gonna have to wipe it clean and start over.
of course.
Because it's gonna have to have stone base and everything else before you pave it. So that's gonna be a large cost. Maybe not being thought of at first because it's building additional bike tracks, but.
It's basically ripping it down,
Redo
and
that
building
one,
brand
you're-
new.
you're-
I
you're starting
realize
over.
that.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about extending bike tracks, why don't we also extend the disc golf course?
So you got 9 holes now,
We have 9 holes.
and
make it an
typically it's 18.
Make it an 18-hole course. That's gonna attract more people, than anything from the disc golf side. Nobody really wants to travel to play a 9-hole course.
Yeah.
We use it locally, and we have a pretty big group ourselves. But if you have an 18-hole course, we've seen it from our other courses, you'll have people traveling from the Lehigh Valley, coming over from Jersey, because we go over there to play.
How many are at Yetter?
Everything. Yetter?
Yeah.
During the summer, when we're busy, we usually have 30 to 40 people
But at how many holes?
for the leagues, 18.
Do people?
Well, there's 18 holes with 2 baskets.
Uh-huh.
And then like versus what, River's Edge is right now, It's 9 holes with 2 tee pads.
Right.
But we also have other tee pads we put in, and then we also put in an extra red basket that you can play from 5 different holes.
Sure.
So there's, a total of, what it was, 40 different holes you can play there.
Are people willing to pay?
Pay?
Yeah,
Why would you pay?
well, right now, you're talking about bringing people from outside of the area, and right now, the rule is that we're not enforcing it in the winter, but in the summertime, that if you're from out of county, you have to pay an entrance fee to the parks.
Well, that's only on the other side, though. I don't think
It's supposed to be both.
No, it's.
It's just never really
100%.
enforced here. I'm just saying that,
Well, I mean, it
because
was.
that was put into place last year when we were having thousands of people coming on Labor Day weekends and
Okay.
trashing the parks. It wasn't targeted at disc golfers,
Right.
but it was also a realization that when you make something great and thousands of people come, you need the resources to maintain it. And which we didn't have, so. But it was what was it, $5, then it was increased to 10? That was introduced last year, there was a $10 fee to go, and we had stationed people at the other one at Minnesink Park,
Yes.
right? And effectively what that did was, there were some people that paid, but mostly people just came and said, oh, I didn't realize it was $10, and they turned around. Locals actually, we did Monroe County, we're free to
And
use.
there was.
Free to use it.
no
I'm just
cash after
curious
that.
because,
If it's advertised on UDisc, which is the app that we use.
yeah,
People would make that decision before they came there.
I'm curious, because if the goal is to make this site where people are coming and it becomes too many, the township would probably say, well, if we're gonna need to maintain this, we don't want that to fall on the residents, if they have to maintain something that other people are gonna use.
See, this has never been mentioned at any of the other meetings when it came to the kayaking and everything else, because the kayakers are gonna come from New Jersey and New York
I
also.
understand.
But it was never mentioned that there was gonna be a fee for launching their kayaks or anything.
I'm just saying, right now there is, I mean,
Oh.
there is this ordinance that states that
Right.
anyone, if you're out of county, you are charged. Right now, we're
$10.
not enforcing it. But that is the law right now. It was made the law in June when we were having trash everywhere. You may know, it was happening in Minnesink, and everyone was out of towners.
There are plenty of courses out there that do charge.
Yeah,
Mostly private courses. And it's usually like a $5 fee to play. And,
and I'm not saying, I mean,
I know plenty of people that pay it to go.
we have the ability, that expires at the end of the year. I think we have to redo it again if we
It's
were.
part of the fee schedule that we'll be adopting in January.
And I think we have to think about that when we think about a master plan is if the goal number 1 is township residents, because it's a township park. That is the number 1 goal, is a place where township and we'll say county residents
Right.
can use.
And we're awaiting formal notification on the receipt of grant funding from the hotel tax for the infrastructure for the parks that we applied for earlier in the year.
You mean for like security cameras and for,
The booths
The
and
booths,
things like, yeah,
but it's something we should all be thinking about when
Yeah.
we're doing this, is that there may be a nominal fee and it might be back to $5 for out of county people. So if we're trying to create something that we don't think there's enough people in the township or the county to use it ever, and that people from out of the area would not pay $5, then it's probably not the best use if that ends up happening again.
So then you might as well forget the bike track too, because people are gonna wanna come from out of the area to use the bike track, cause the other bike tracks aren't in the county.
Right, and they're probably not gonna wanna spend $5. I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Let's not forget this is a shared park with Middle Smithfield. And I just wonder what your feelings are about fees and about charging and the people that are coming in using it from outside.
I don't agree with it personally. I think, if you're gonna build a park, it's for residents or visitors or who have you. I mean, it's an amenity of the township. Just like any other park or, the whole idea.
There's lots of parks, the federal park is a fee, lots of parks have fees. And the idea is not to make it prohibitive. I don't like fees either, but what I really don't like is what we used to do, which is just close the gate, because it's too busy. It was closed on weekends for a long time because there was too many people coming in.
Well, I mean, you could set a maximum or something, but again, now you're gonna have to pay somebody to sit there to collect this money and to police it and see who's paid, who hasn't paid.
Correct.
I mean, it's just, it's gonna be a nightmare, in my opinion. But again, my opinion is that we don't charge for parks because, you want your residents to use them, you want visitors to use them, you want to attract people to the area because that helps the economy with whether they're using the park or they're buying a sandwich or they're having dinner or whatever the case may be. The whole idea is to be a welcoming community. And again, if you drove down, into Jersey and you got charged $5 to get off the exit because you're going into their town, you probably go a different way. I mean, some of the things that the government can provide, in my opinion, parks is one of them.
Yeah, the chat, and by the way, I mean, my entire personal business is based on visitors. I need visitors, and the idea of having another amenity that they can access, so personally, I'm all for it. There just has to be a way then how you keep those places from getting overrun and trashed. And the real problem is water access. That's where you run into, so like, that's why I'm actually not a fan of any water pads, because those water pads will attract thousands of people. And we want it to be usable, but we also don't want to exclude locals from being able to use it.
Correct.
But I don't know, and I mean, this should probably be a part of it as well, is if it's gonna be something that's this amazing thing that gets accessed, how do we, like, that's why, Jacob's saying fencing, well, how can you limit people then? And by the way, charging the money doesn't cover the costs. But the thing it did was it kept 2,000 people from going in and trashing it, which saved money because it cost
Had to
3
take
days.
several, days Public Works was down
And
there.
I don't want a fee either, but I also don't want to close it on Labor Day because it's too many.
But I would consider that situation to be atypical, because we have parks that are right on Route 209. And we don't have a problem.
But it's the water access.
The water access is.
Okay, so maybe the water access is next, but the other amenities certainly.
It's the 1,000 people that are going into the Broadhead and bathing on a
Okay,
July.
so you got a lot, that's fine.
Can't you fence the area?
I think the
Close
goal-
off that access?
Well, I think the goal really wasn't to do that, it was to prevent, the swimming. I mean, we had folks that were, trekking all the way down. I mean, now, when we had enforcement in there, it wasn't the same issue. But I think certainly at Minnesink, people were, like, oh yeah, we're going to the park. And then they'd run down, the embankment. And then when they couldn't go there, they started to go to River's Edge, which is why we were able, in a staff decision, be able to enforce the fee policy over there, which prevented more of that. Tara, you've had it.
Going back to disc golf, I'm from Paradise Township, I work for Paradise Township. We put in a disc golf course at one of our parks, it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
We have people travel from all over, I've got stats from that park. In 1 month, we had people from 15 different states come to that disc golf course. We don't have a problem with garbage or littering or anything like that. One thing we've done is, as the disc golf community, we've had tournaments there and we've given back to the township. Some of the fees that we've collected and stuff from the tournament goes back to the township.
I mean, to be clear, I don't think expanding the disc golf is gonna create thousands of people.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it'd be great for you if it did, but I don't think
Right.
it will. That's not the problem. The problem is people that are gonna come in and they wanna bathe in the Broadhead,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Broadhead,
sure.
right? And do their barbecues on the beach, leave trash that costs thousands of dollars to repair, is loud and the neighbors is concerning and is a nuisance. And we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep that from happening.
Right.
And last year, unfortunately, or this year, what that solution was charge everybody $5, which would eventually inadvertently affect other people that are using it for not that reason, but it'd be hard. I mean, there might be a way to say, oh, you're here for disc golf, fine, you don't have to pay, but shoot.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, just to piggyback off what Mike was saying, I think the Frisbee Golf, their community, you know, they've come through, they're volunteering, right? Like they're literally doing their own maintenance. So I understand the fee and I appreciate the fee, that you guys imposed over at the fields. I don't believe that I saw anybody, and it may have just been when I was, you know, passing by, but I don't believe I saw anybody over at River's Edge collecting fees this past year.
We didn't do it.
Okay, so for the Frisbee Golf people, because, you know, they keep to themselves, they honestly, they keep the riffraff out, they keep it clean, they're going in, they're volunteering their time, they're keeping to themselves, and we as the neighbors to the park really appreciate that. If maybe there was a way that there would be, could be some kind of, maybe arrangement or something, that if people are part of the Frisbee Golf group, that they be exempt, because, you know, they're doing some of the volunteering, right? They're putting in towards some of the maintenance, which is helping save you guys costs on the labor.
I think so.
So that way, people aren't deterred,
Yeah.
saying people will come from out of the area to play, and then they get, you know, here you have to pay $10 to come in.
Right, well, I think to make it clear, that is something that we would do, and it's something that we do right now with like the SYA and East Stroudsburg Little League. So if we were to formalize the relationship on a contractual basis, where there are like large groups that we expect, and then have that type of maintenance, I think.
Like all
that
the
would be-
soccer kids that were going there, if
Yeah.
they were out of county, they didn't have to pay.
Right, and neither do their family members to go watch them either.
No, it's just quite, and, I mean, I would love for this whole plan to come up with a better plan where we don't have to charge people. I really love a solution
Yeah.
that is not involved charging. That was sort of like, this is our best option.
And it worked where it needed to, but I agree, I think when we know, you know, we have this relationship, it's
The
fairly.
reality is what we're worried about are, it's like, they call them the dog days of summer, right? The hot days of summer, when the groups come out and they wanna go in the water.
They don't wanna pay to put in at Smithfield, they come right off the highway in the buses and take over the fields.
Yeah.
You know, and then your public works crews have to come out with their loaders
Yeah.
and get the garbage out of the creek,
Yeah.
it's disgusting.
Yeah, we all agree, that's why
We're
we made
real
that.
lucky that it stopped the second that we,
Yeah, so we just have to think about that when it comes to how we move forward.
I just wanted to, agree with this gentleman, both my sons, they're into, disc golfing. My son is always at, he's probably on one of their teams, I think, over there. And he's either at Camp Olympus, he's at Field of Dreams, he's at Moore Township, he's literally, in a tournament probably 3 or 4 times a week. And the 18 holes, I mean, if we're gonna put money into it, like this gentleman said, I don't think you're gonna get people to come to just the 9 holes, because I know
And
it's just not gonna attract them.
correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not necessarily that expensive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why
It's
you
the
have,
cheapest part of
it's
it.
the cheapest way to do that. You do some clear cutting in some areas, but I've also, I mean, I watched my Facebook disc golf videos, and lots of trying to go through trees to get to different chains and
Yeah, we
stuff.
like trees, it's an obstacle.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
very selfishly, I mean, my son under the Christmas tree literally this year is a pack of disc golf, so.
Nice.
It's fun. I mean, I've gone with them. It's fun. I mean, it's challenging, but.
it is cool. And I think this is an area that, you know, I'd like to see us, I mean, if we could set up a separate time for like us to meet, or you come to like a supervisor meeting, we could try to formalize that agreement. Cause I think regardless of what happens with this, it would be nice to do that anyway.
And I actually would love volunteers, great, but I also think if it's a park, we should also be not
Primarily
exclusively
responsible.
relying on you guys to maintain it.
Right.
We need
we
to,
do that at our park also, and Yetter does it too, like, they have their maintenance department, I'm on the maintenance department there.
right,
We maintain, do stuff at the park as well, but then the other guys from the disc golf community just do little things, picking up sticks.
yeah, well, and
You know,
I've talked,
maybe a clip here and a clip there, if something starts to get overgrown.
well, when we had
Because
some.
we play, we know what needs to be done.
We had some issues last year and I was a big advocate for, they should be sort of township-led improvements.
Yes.
But you're able to use and work with the support of volunteers, as opposed to relying on the users to, all right, we're gonna organize a pouring of concrete day and stuff.
Right.
It's better if it's led by the township, with guidance and support from the people that are using it.
Did we
But
find?
this formalizes it so that this is a township endorsed cleanup day or a township.
We just had a problem with the township at that point because they had guys out and, you know, they just couldn't find the time to be there with us when we were, you know, trying to do that.
Okay, quick pause. Ma'am, can I get your name, please?
Charlene Souza.
Thank you. Carry on.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we did finalize those forms now, so for the next time that this comes around where we're gonna, you know, require notice, different things like that, but I think now that we're talking about a more formalized relationship, we can make that a little bit easier too.
Are there ever disc golf courses where you have walking trails through them, or is that weird?
Yetters like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, it's just,
Disc
Yeah, we
golfers
take-
like to be
we
upset,
take-
like, oh my gosh, there's people walking.
no, we
with their
take
dogs.
turns. I mean, and same thing with Skywood. People walk their dogs there all the time and stuff.
Right.
It's just you're courteous to each other,
Right.
you know? It's, if somebody's walking, you're not throwing a disc at them.
Cause I was gonna say, it
Right,
doesn't have to.
You wait till they get by, then you throw your disc.
I was gonna say, it doesn't have to be that, it's like, well, there's your walking trail there, and there's your disc golf there, like, they could fully be integrated.
Yeah,
right?
Yetter, East Stroudsburg South uses Yetter's Park as part of their cross
Cross
country.
country, yeah.
And we're playing at the same time as they're running through.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I love back to what I want a loop trail. I mean, my parents go to the mall and walk, not here, they don't live here. They walk around the mall. I mean, people aren't doing that anymore, but giving a place where people can go and go for a stroll, it's always good, I think, so.
Yeah.
They can do that throughout that, doesn't mean you can't have one and not the other, so.
Where your parents are from, that's probably the only place they can walk, not in the snow.
Warm enough now, it's about the same climate.
Missy, what's next?
So that discussion was the last item on your agenda. I don't know if we want to discuss the, project timeline.
Can we, before we do that,
Next meeting.
I'm curious about, I've heard, I mean, so obviously there's some people that like the pump track, some people that don't want pump track, think it's too expensive, will be too much to maintain, I've heard that. I haven't really heard any, at least in this room, anything negative about disc golf, so that's good. I'm very curious when you're doing your analysis about that, because there's gonna be, I mean, if there's anything that like, everyone seemed to like this idea and
Right.
nobody disliked it, those are good things to add.
For sure.
But I'm curious if there's things that have been mentioned that there's other, not that I wanna big hate fest right now, but if there's things that people really don't want. I personally don't think that a theater is a good idea, good thing to do. I know that's been discussed. I don't know if we need giant gazebos given the flooding in the area. So I'm hesitant on any major structural buildings.
With like the additional benches and tables.
Benches
Talked about.
and picnic tables,
And no apps, no,
not the same,
it's all mobile, I can do.
so.
Yeah.
good.
That's a-
Folks, my name is Danny Younger. I currently preside over a chapter number 12 of the Society for Pennsylvania Archaeology. We've got the benefit of having our meetings in Little Smithfield Township once a month. And like any such organization, we've got a rather responsible board. On our board, we've got Curtis Hosey, currently the archaeologist and project manager at the Hawk Mountain Sanctuary dig site. We've got Ms. Rebecca Ashdot, currently a graduate student in archaeology at Monmouth University. And of course, on our board, we've got the legendary Mr. Don Kwan, the gentleman that first excavated and discovered the Shawnee Mason site. Yeah, well, we obviously appreciate the fact that you've reached out to Dr. Gingrich. We did want to bring it to your attention that there have been, in fact, others that have been involved with that particular site, such as Dr. McNutt and his cohort at American University. Beyond that, we've recently seen literature produced by R. Michael Stewart from Temple University in his studies on the Upper Delaware River Valley area. We wanted to make the brief comment that you've been referring to it in your paperwork as the Lenape dig site. We wouldn't use such language specifically because we're saying to ourselves, look, just a stone's throw away, you had the Shawnee village. That was a different tribe entirely.
Right.
If you can't specifically point to the Lenape, then you're better off simply referring to it as the Shawnee Minix site in broad general terms. Now, our key issues are these. We've taken a look at the preliminary paperwork produced in June. We see that the plan at that point in time called for reaching out to the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office for discussions with regard to incorporation of the Shawnee Minnesink site into the broader master plan. And we'd love to hear how discussions have proceeded along that line, who you've been talking to. We know several of the folks there, both current members of the SHPO office and retired members who are in a position to assist when it comes to matters like that. All in all, our primary concern is that because it is an archaeological site, it deserves to be properly protected. And if you are going to incorporate it as a significant element in your master plan, we would like to see an educational component developed.
Yeah, 100%.
We have previously gone to the township here and asked for permission for our own big opportunity. That opportunity would not be at the Shawnee Minnesink site proper, but elsewhere. But that's not a matter for discussion today. That's something we can take up at a later point. But no, those are our main concerns. We have to think of this site as sacred land. And with that in mind, it shapes our understanding of how to best treat that particular area. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Wait. I've never been to the site and I don't know where it is because it's covered and I should know where it is. But as we proceed with this, the question is gonna come up, is there a way we should protect it, let's say with a fence? Or is a fence just calling attention to the fact that something's there that people can hop over and try to examine and dig up?
I would agree with you that the fence is probably not the best way to go on this. The best way, candidly, is something for you to resolve with the State Historic Preservation Office. They are the masters in preservation initiatives. So while we might have our own opinion here locally, I would defer to the state.
You asked about the discussion with the preservation office. It is currently under review. So I haven't had much of a conversation with them, but I'd love to hear who your contacts are.
Oh, that's simple.
If that's okay.
That would be folks like Casey Hansen.
Casey?
Yeah. With regard to the site locations and such, that would be Napoleon Taylor. You've got a very strong representative in the former head of the archaeology section at the State Museum. That would be Kurt Carr.
Okay.
He's currently managing the Shoup Paleo-Indian site further down south. Beyond that, locally, you could also be reaching out to Noelle Stratton, who is involved in the Hawk Mountain chapter's activity. She was also with the State Museum and she is local as well.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
I love that. I mean, I really hope you can talk to a lot of.
Yeah, I think it would probably be one of the coolest.
That was very helpful.
It'd be super interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about like a path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm mentioning Michigan. We go there every summer.
There's nothing wrong with Michigan.
There's a bog walk, which is, I don't, this is not a bog, but, talk about, I mean, there's a board, it's a boardwalk, but
Right.
there's not fence, but like you can't hop, it's not just boardwalk, right? There's railings over the bog, but they did it really well to protect the bog while being able to walk through it, moments where you can sit. I mean, it's a possibility, I guess, that you're sort of walking through like, oh, this was a dig area without a fence. You have a sort of railing on, maybe a portion of it is boardwalk with a railing and you can sort of look and, oh, maybe not seeing anything, but that's where that was, and then an information
Or
stand.
you could have some really cool, yeah, I mean, we have like a sort of micro version of that in the lobby here. It'd be really great to do that in a much bigger way.
Yeah.
Kind of graphically intensive, like the ones we do with Broadhead
Or,
Watershed.
or at Marshall's Creek Falls, you know, the
Oh,
like
like that one,
information,
yeah.
the information stands that talks about the different digs that have happened
Yeah.
and educates people. I mean, and that's pretty low impact, right? And pretty low maintenance, because
For
you're.
sure.
So Michael, one of the unique aspects of this particular anthropological site is that it has artifacts from various ages, going
Right.
back 12,000 years or so, all the way to just before Europeans arrived. And so it's one of the few sites where you have the accumulation and you have different cultures. And perhaps the township could talk about those different cultures. I think Dr. Gingrich indicated there are at least 3 different unique cultures that were discovered there. So something to consider.
Yeah, love the education.
We kind of passed over the question of a kayak launch quickly before we got into these other things. Maybe we should spend a little time on the advisability of that to the public, because like this golf, like the pump track, you know, certain people are gonna use it, some aren't, and does it open us up for more use of the creek? You know, we haven't really talked about.
Well, Alex has been talking to the River Sojourn folks, right? So would you possibly, in whatever way you deem is best, be able to get information from them?
Yeah, we
about
can-
Their general use when you talk to them?
Yeah, we can get information from them, and perhaps that would be a key person interview since they have so much experience with non-motorized.
Yeah.
Boats.
Yeah, I will add them to the list,
Okay.
absolutely.
I will say from my standpoint, I mean, while I love the idea of the ability to do it, me personally as well. I mean, knowing how I live I live on Worthington Street where people are coming down and Smithfield's too busy, they're gonna launch right off the edge. That is one of the things that will create more foot traffic than your disc golf and may create crowds and potential challenges. I'm not saying I absolutely don't like it, but that's one of those higher risk things for my
Well,
opinion.
yeah, because you don't want it to end up where everybody parks their vehicle there and then, drops. And then the people that want to come utilize the course for like a planned event aren't able to. Especially with the current park situation, we can't do anything to reserve space either.
One of the alternatives, though, is whether we look at the launch site on Cherry Creek rather than on the Broadhead.
I
Because,
don't even know, and can you even do that? Because they're not our.
what? Cherry Creek is the other side of the park.
Okay,
So in other words,
you got 2 questions back
no,
there.
Cherry Creek. In other words, we launch from the little parking lot that's in Delaware Water Gap, not to Cherry Creek. You know where the stepping stones are, somewhere around there. And in fact, I guess when the park was designed, it was designed for kayaks because there are some little landing areas there where there are rails. Just like, you tie up a horse, well, you tie up your kayak. They were been used, but that's what they were for. And it's a much calmer place to launch a kayak than on the Broadhead. It's a little short walk, but it's, it's accessible.
So I'll be honest, I'm a bit frustrated. You guys keep bringing up in these meetings about the boat launch. We've spoken with Park Service. We were told that the township does not have jurisdiction over the river there to be able to put in a boat launch. And that there's a rigorous approval process and they most likely would not approve it. So I don't really understand why it's like still a question.
Well, I mean, to be honest, no one from here has made any of those requests. We just know it's a commonly requested, amenity. We haven't, formally requested permission. We haven't drawn up anything on it. So the reason why it's still been discussed is because we haven't done anything formal yet that would tell us it's not feasible.
Okay. So another thing that I would like to bring to light, and again, we've spoken about this previously. I know at the last meeting, Alex was like really keen on, possibly doing an extension, like you had mentioned, like a boardwalk or a pier type thing out into the creek. And as somebody who lives, down there and has kids people out, coming down our road, looking for river access, which I think the ramp would bring a lot more people than who are already down there looking for river access. I turned away 2 cars full of kids about 2 years ago. They went, parked right in the bike park, got in the river at dusk. It got dark and 2 people, you know, one got swept and one got swept and drowned.
Is that in the Broadhead?
Yeah, right in
Yes.
Broadhead. They park right at the bike park. They get into the water there and they don't bring life jackets. They have small children with them. It was a whole group of people. And then coming down our road is Portland Search and Rescue, Marshall's Creek, Shawnee, Water Gap, all the local fire companies. You know, they're using our boats sometimes because they're not able to get a boat quick enough, or they have to come up from Portland. So I think you guys may want to talk to Mr. Karasek about if you guys put something in, what is the liability on the township
Yeah.
by adding river access for an area where there are significant drownings? Well over 100 just in the last couple of years.
But, and I would have to get all the stats from NPS, but I guess what I would say is, we're talking about, you know, like Robert just mentioned, potentially doing it at Cherry Creek or something. A different location that's not gonna be part of this. All right, sir.
Putting it in the Broadhead Creek right here, and you're in a flood zone to begin with. If you would make a path that's sloped down to the creek, when we get heavy rains like we're getting now plus more, that's gonna back up and flood even more. Then you're gonna lose, you could potentially lose part of your, if it's close to the bike park, you may lose part of your bike park after you just spent tons of money to redo it. You can't just go make a slope for people just to go down there when it's in a floodplain. You're gonna let the water flow in quicker off the creek. And then when the creek gets high and the river gets high and starts backing the creek up, which it does, it's gonna push up in that land farther yet.
Sure, well, and that wouldn't be our intention, which is why we would have to.
Well, no, it's not gonna take, but you gotta think being in a flood stage, if we do something,
Yeah.
what's the,
Well, we know the natural flooding that's happened at Minnesink certainly, you know, over the years that have, you know, gone over the soccer field. So like, we certainly would be conscientious about that. And I think, you know, what we're hearing is maybe an alternative location that's not related to this park.
I think what's also important is we're hearing, while there are people that want
Yeah,
this, there's definitely people that don't want it. That's all I'm trying to raise, is that there are people that actively do not like the idea of a boat launch. May I understand, I mean, we have private property and every day in the summertime, we turn away people that are using the boat launch and yell and scream at us because they say it's their right to put it in, but, so it's can be a difficult group to manage as well, and can potentially be a nightmare, just.
I agree. I mean, it sounds
advising.
like it doesn't really belong there.
It's, and as been said, it might not even be possible, so I'm saying it might not be the best
Well,
use.
To be clear, when this was brought before, it was within the mold of the feasibility study and not in, hey, we've decided to do this
Right, of
already,
course.
so we're doing it. And I think that's kind of
Well,
where it sounds like it comes from, and I think we should be clear that not once have we decided to do that.
No, it's good to have a healthy discussion, that's why we're doing this, to have a healthy discussion on these options and.
Well, if I may, I mean, it sounds to me, from what you guys are saying collectively and, that if this hasn't become phase 26A,
Yeah.
I think it may be more beneficial just to kill it now. It can be added 15 years from now if the next board wants to do it, but, again, I think it'd be more beneficial for everyone if we put something that's more realistic.
Yeah.
There's no reason to put it on there if the flavor is not to do it anyway, so.
Yeah, and my view on this also is if there's certain elements that we can do that 99% of people think's a great idea.
Yeah.
Then like focus on those, and if there's certain things that 50% really want it, 50% really don't want it, well, maybe
Yeah.
that's not what we should.
For sure.
And I mean, the people that kayak now, they go from A to B to C to D, and, this is gonna be off the beaten path, and
Yeah, I mean,
It's really
people
not
are looking for
connected.
put-ins and put outs, and if they
Yeah.
don't wanna use the companies to do it, wanna do it themselves, so we're in a
Right.
place where they can park the cars, and by the way, that is what you'll have too, if this becomes a standard, it would be a put-in place, you're gonna kill your parking too,
Right.
because people will
Right.
park there and
And leave their car there all day.
then leave their car there all day, and then they'll get dropped off in Portland. And
Correct.
then there are other cars there,
Yeah.
they'll come back. It's just,
Right.
it's another thing you have to be conscious
I mean, I
of, which
think-
hopefully Chamberlain Canoes tells you and.
Well, I was, River Runner, when I spoke to the Pocono Pony, they did mention the stopping points that they have along
Right.
Delaware. And he said this launch would not be a good pickup or drop off location for the canoes to enter the water.
They can't get
But
up the broad end.
It's not
They wouldn't be able to get up
a good
there.
route.
It'd be the only
Um,
place it would be is
so-
put in.
Yeah, no, it's okay, it's okay. But that, he did mention that,
Right.
just based upon his
Hmm.
observations.
Also, I mean, if they were gonna, the bus was gonna stop there, like, you can't possibly, fit their regular or a smaller bus that, not easily with that parking
You know, the
situation.
Pocono Pony they have it's like a short bus that has the kayak trailer on it.
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
the
I'm just
grants
saying,
do
like,
that.
even there right now, when I imagine the current parking situation, the way that people kind of park all over the place, there's not
Yeah, parking
demarcated.
has to be fixed.
That's,
That is.
so that's what I was saying, like, I don't think it's practical for that reason too, even if it was perfect otherwise.
So, I mean, that would be right, my recommendation, just take it out.
And when we talk about improving, the parking there, does it make sense to add, more impervious surface and pave that as well? Or is that not the best practice for that site, given?
What,
No, I think,
gravel? I think it was-
I mean,
I'm just asking.
Township lumps, honestly, gravel would, you're gonna get, if you improve the park, you might get more visitors, which means more maintenance on the gravel.
Yeah,
If you pave it,
Drives up the
you don't
cost.
have to, yeah, it drives up the cost, but there might be less maintenance every year, for every,
But
2
it's
years.
I'd like to at least
impervious
see the,
though, not impervious, because it's a floodplain, it would have to be pervious, because otherwise it would create water issues.
No, you can provide a parking lot, an impervious parking lot at grade within the floodplain. It is permitted.
Okay, because none of us are allowed where we are on the front to have any kind of, nobody has paving down there, everybody's stone, including our road.
Stone is considered an impervious surface.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
yeah,
By definition. it's-
yeah.
Yeah, A2 is considered an
Not just
impervious
stone alone.
surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point for you. Yeah.
We could always explore.
No, it's.
You should look at that, that's a FEMA.
Not changing the ordinance.
No.
That's what it is currently.
Mhm.
Yeah, the township is not the entity that decides what is considered an impervious or impervious surface. That is, I have no idea who would even make that call. That would,
I mean, that's maybe more of a state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, but just to give an example, there's, everyone knows that there's minimum or maximum lot coverage and impervious.
Mhm.
We had a constituent in, Rep. Madden's district that basically put down stone on 40% of his property, which caused the natural flooding to his neighbors, and he was upset because he said this is impervious, and, same thing, semi-impervious is, impervious.
Yeah.
So,
So is there certain gravels that are,
It's not
Impervious?
specified, no.
Most of the driveways down there, they're modified, it's modified, it's like clay and stone.
Mhm.
and then
no,
Mhm.
yeah,
It's not just regular stone, and then the road has always been dirt.
is the
Right.
parking in the floodway, floodplain, it looks like the floodway,
It
right?
is the,
Oh, it's the plain.
no, it's the floodplain, yep,
yeah.
yeah, it's
That's
on the other
different,
side
that
of the road.
changes too,
Plain versus way.
yeah,
Mhm, yeah.
way is way more restrictive.
Right,
Yeah, the big section of the property this is the complete.
Half the price of their landing is way.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's the front versus the back.
Yeah.
I mean, our big concern is hearing about if things are going to be like pavement or macadam, whatever you wanna call it. Is that going to change the ability of the ground to absorb the groundwater when the creek comes up and when we get, if there's stormwater, I know you guys have to do stormwater management, if the bike park is redesigned for the pump track, but, our concern is just where is that water going?
Right.
If it, has somewhere to go currently, and then those surfaces are, made impervious.
I guess what I'm hearing is that it's already technically
It's already
impervious.
impervious, yes.
Yeah, I just wanna see for cost's sake, you know, what it would be, and maybe
Yes.
we have an idea of what the maintenance would be on that.
Absolutely,
I mean,
and
like, we have a bunch of parks right now where we've got gravel, but then there's a couple ADA spots specifically that are paved.
yes.
Cause they have to be.
Right, and I don't like the cookie cutter look.
Mhm.
You know, and I know that if we're going to make this park, you know, more accessible.
I like
for others
gravel,
with the
I like
walking-
gravel way more, but.
Well, I'm all about that, but I wanna make sure that we're at least
Mhm.
maintaining the inclusiveness, you know, for the sake of the trail and stuff. I mean, for at least like one, it doesn't have to be everything.
Could
but it
also,
needs to be
you can also
inclusive.
have an initial section that you drive into that is small, that includes your ADA, that is paved,
Mhm.
and then if there's expanded parking, that's all gravel,
Right,
right?
Well, you know, like we talked about before with the stage costs, we
Yeah.
can include gravel parking lot
Right.
and parking lot. So then you can see.
Yeah. I mean, cause like, I think that and the other one that I'd be interested to see, but I don't think is feasible is like when bathroom facilities have come up, what did people imagine?
There wasn't much discussion about restroom facilities.
Right.
It was just a quick idea.
Okay, so I was gonna say, it's probably be relatively difficult. Like if I'm thinking beyond, we have the porta potties, you know, like we do that. But I don't know that it makes sense to do like the full standalone units like NPS does. at
Right,
Smithfield
right.
Beach or something.
I'm for, building real, bathroom facilities there. I mean, one of the reasons it's good for that is the pipe from Manwalamet goes right by both of those parks. It goes as far as,
That's a
It
good
is
point.
right across the street.
I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
if I was gonna put in a bathroom, I would much prefer it in a sink.
Well, I think
either
for sure.
one, but somewhere there.
Because that's where you have thousands of
Yeah.
kids that are, and they have issues and stuff, and all of a sudden they need a bathroom.
Do they have any
Well, we don't-
in the ESYA building?
Yeah, is there anything in that?
It's owned, how does that work? That is leased to them, but the building is owned by ES. What's the arrangement with that building?
It's leased to them, but
Township owns the property and those organizations have a long-term lease.
They release on that
And an
building.
Yeah,
agreement on
they operate the
well,
building.
on how they utilize it, sort of a right. for-
It's always locked.
right.
Well, the back of it is one of our storage. The back. is not-
Anyway, that's not this plan, but it's worth a conversation
yeah.
about.
My point is only this, the pipe goes as far as the visitor center, so it goes right by there.
Right,
There's no reason why you couldn't put in bathrooms there.
You know, like a lateral line into the,
or at least in
That's in the
that
main.
vicinity.
While we're talking about that, just a thought,
Yeah.
question. The entrance to Manwalmick is right where the numbers are there?
the sewer. the
Yeah,
wastewater
yeah,
plant.
yep, you can see where, that's.
I'm just wondering, like, is there, I don't know why one might, I'm just throwing it out there. Is there a reason why the entrance might want to change? If we're talking about changing parking, I don't know.
To line them up.
Is there value of doing that? I don't think there's enough traffic on River Road. It's nice that it's a flat area, you can see the people coming left and
Right.
right.
Yeah,
When you
and
need to make-
there's-
It's not like it's a blind turn, which is probably why the entrance isn't closer to the bridge, because then it'd be a blind turn. You don't want the entrance to be there.
No, and I mean, lining up driveways and roads is a great idea, but I don't think a lot of, there's a
There's
lot of
zero
users
traffic.
going into.
There's
the
no
sewer
traffic
plant,
there.
so
You're right.
I don't think it would hurt that.
No, I don't think so.
Is that a township road, River Road?
Yeah, it is now.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
But then you can't put the entrance, well, you got an entrance right there where the parking lot is, you just gotta make sure you have room for the site distance.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I just wanna make sure, is that the right place for it? I assume it is, but,
I think if it's there, you keep it there.
yeah, alright.
I don't
Yeah.
think there's any reason to move it based on
No.
existing conditions.
I just think, especially,
I don't find it very clear when I'm driving in. I'm like, where is that?
Well, I think that's true, but I think there might be some things that we can do over there. to-
The arrival, approach, and
Yeah.
parking obviously needs to be addressed.
Well, yeah, and I think too, you know, like I mentioned a couple times, the fencing as well, so we can have site access control. You know, cause right now, someone can just go around, like there's like a ditch, but it's not. It's still feasible if you wanna do something. Right,
Jacob, I have two questions.
sure,
Okay, you're talking about putting a bathroom in, besides the fact that it's a floodplain and it gets flooded at points. Second thing is, How are you going to lock them at night so people aren't there at night? Using the bathrooms, parking there at the bathrooms?
Well, I don't know that we're, I mean, I don't know that we're gonna put the bathrooms of that site, but we were just talking about in that general area that, you know, Minnesink might be better anyway, for that. But, I would like to be able to lock the park completely at night, for sure. Right now, I go over there and I, you know, twist my key and I chain like the gate that just.
So you can walk around.
Yeah, so I would like to fence off the gate, at least from the road access.
And the other thing is, there's a light that you guys put up there within the last
At the
week
White Park.
at night that comes on now.
There was a, that's correct. There was a fixture that had gone out, there was a hornet's nest in there and they had just replaced, is that like over the last week?
Yeah, but there hasn't been a light there in years.
Which light are you referencing?
The one that's on now.
Or at the White Park.
Yeah. it's
I
on-
mean, there's nobody at the bike park, but yet we have this big enormous light that's on all night.
Oh.
Who's that for?
And it's supposed to be closed at dusk.
Dusk to
And the
dawn,
gate don't
but
get
yet
closed.
Is it over the bike park or over the parking lot?
It's over
It's
the
over the
parking
parking
lot.
it's over the parking lot.
I don't know about it.
From the gate to the White
No.
Park itself.
Yeah, there was a truck there the other night at 7 o'clock in the dark working on the light. That now is on.
So it is, we haven't installed anything new. It was existing, it's been there, it's been broken forever.
Right, forever.
It had a giant hornet's nest in it. The crew, I believe, changed the light bulb and it didn't work. There was something weird with the ballast that
Probably
there was
well.
an old, if I remember correctly, the ballast had been changed for LED, but the light was not. And
Yeah, that
then,
makes sense.
so when they
Yeah.
screwed it in, it wasn't working. The gentleman that you saw over there working on it was probably the electrician, because our guys didn't know how to fix it. And he said that the ballast was fine, it was the light bulb that was the problem. So our guys cleaned out the hornet's nest and obviously didn't want to touch it over the summer because the hornets were more active
Well,
there.
we should,
Yeah, but why is it on all night?
Why do you need a light there when the park's supposed to be closed at dusk? You're
understand,
just inviting people in there.
Yeah.
And you don't close the gate.
understand. It's news to me.
Hold on now.
Well, I was gonna say, there's a value of light for security purposes. However, we should definitely look at that light and make sure it's in keeping with our soon to be,
Yeah,
our soon to be enacted ordinance, but regardless, we should keep it with the intent. So if there's a way, Julia, can we
Chris tomorrow.
just take a look and make sure that it is, there's no spillage and it's pointing in the right direction?
My kitchen.
And then,
It's pointing straight down.
but make sure that they can have shutters on them and keeps it from, just as a start, and then we should talk about, you know, it can be nice to have light in spaces if they're actually locked off for security to keep people from doing bad things in them. We all know, so, but again, reiterates the point that Jake is making, that it would make sense to be able to have this be really closable so you can't get in. Without being dangerous, that's the other problem. You don't want cars to,
correct.
And they're gonna replace the post once this summer down there.
yeah,
Somebody backed into one of them and had to replace it.
yeah.
Anything else that anyone wants to raise? I think this was productive.
I would just hate to lengthen the conversation, but one of the unique features are the old railroad pillars that are in the Delaware River that lead to I think Price's Landing Road used to be the old railroad bed. And, you know, an educational kiosk might wanna, you know, maybe talk a little bit about the history of the railroads in the area or something like that, just to kind of, you know, explain what those are, because, you know, anyone that paddles down the Delaware sees those
Sure.
pillars, and it's worth considering, you know, the history. Just a thought.
I think generally, obviously, we need to talk about educational kiosks in general, because there's a lot of history of the whole area. Whether they be digs, whether they be the history of what we came up with in the digs. So mentioning the railroad might not be a bad idea without necessarily,
Yeah, it doesn't.
it doesn't have to be there either.
Correct. Yeah, okay. Well, that. all we do today.
You guys have anything? Have one more comment.
I still have public comment.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna hand in Price's Landings 22 surveys for the park.
Yeah.
Okay, manually done, because still as of this week, the drop key
Mhm.
still goes to Lloyd's Lane,
Mhm.
which I asked a couple of weeks ago for it to be corrected and wasn't.
That's pulling data, it's not our data, you know.
It's, so here is,
We'll call Google.
Okay. We can suggest that it's to Google, it doesn't always take, but thank you for.
and I do have 24 rights to know. For Middle Smithfield, if you could take them with you, please, and I know as of tomorrow.
It looks like they're in the wrong spot.
The challenge of the names that are.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Our rights to know for the bike park
Have to-
property.
Do we have to discuss scheduling the next meeting?
Yeah,
At this meeting?
that's a good idea.
Okay. So the next meeting, will include in and out. This is going to be the bulk of it. To prepare for the next week's meeting, because we have to, compile the information from the key person interviews, the citizen survey, and prepare 2 to 3 concept notes based upon the
About 2 to
information.
3 at the next one?
Yes, so, I know there was some discussion about February meeting. I would suggest the end of February to give time to,
Honestly,
or,
I'm fine leaving it open-ended. You tell us when you're ready. I don't think we need to announce it today.
okay.
Cause I know there's a lot of people you have to talk to.
There, yeah, and I'm hoping, I was doing the key person interviews with the citizen service, so I'm hoping to wrap those up within the next couple of weeks, and, we can start compiling the information and prepare the plans. Our goal will be for end of February, or March, but we'll set a date.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Sound
that.
good?
Yeah,
Okay,
all right. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Levenheim, second.
I'll second, we have one more question from the audience.
Where was it? All in favor? Aye.
When is the next meeting?
It's around the end of February, we didn't put a date yet.
I don't like cold calling. Is there a?
I mean,
Okay.
I could go.
Yeah.
See Many more meetings this month?
One more.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, that's. Yeah, so.
We've got a joint meeting on signing.
Well,
It's already advertised,
I just want to say, how about we just tell everybody, great, on the last one, it's good, we're ready to go. I don't need to have 40 more. Everyone loves the end. It's like, oh, we gotta have more. 20 people are gonna be invited. We're all gonna vote. No one's gonna read it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I don't see it. I'm getting out of there.
I'm glad that it's right on yet.
Absolutely.
Back there.
Oh, thanks for coming in.
I have.
Oh, you're gonna be there? Okay, good.
Happy.
All right. Take care.
Where you want?
Yeah.
I'm not too for you.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't realize on these, but you're gonna deal, it's too bright to save the.
You know,